Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's your boy, the Hip Hop Lobbyist. And tonight, having a new series, a new special. You know, a lot of people want to wait till election time to talk about the candidates, talk about what's out there, what's important for people. And I think that it'll be the best time to really start the series now. And the person I have with us today is State Representative Derrick Jackson, who is a candidate across the board. He's a Democrat. And I personally don't believe that Democrats have the starting narrative going into this election cycle to actually be competitive, especially when we have Trump in office, they have Congress, they have the White House, they have everything going. And I don't see a Democratic message coming out of Congress on a national level that's going to trickle down into states. They're going to actually engage people to go vote. My biggest thing from this conversation is bringing Representative Jackson and other candidates, Republican and Democrat, onto the platform to have a real conversation, not only about them, but their platform in general, and see if their narrative fits to what the American ideals are, Republican or Democrat. Because remember, I'm not bisexual, I'm bipartisan. So a part of that is actually making sure that as a bipartisan person, leading a bipartisan, I guess, movement and community, that we connect with elected officials to understand exactly what's in their platform and how they relate to us. So if you have elected officials that you would love to see on this platform, this show, this YouTube channel, please make sure that you tag them. I'll make sure I have my team reach out, the team being me. And of course, we'll try to see if we can get them on the show. But more than anything, thank you. But let's get back to the interview with State Representative Derrick Jackson, who is running to be the next governor of Georgia. Thank you again. To State Representative, our main guest for tonight, a gubernatorial candidate for governor, Representative Derrick Jackson. Thank you for your patience and joining the show tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother, for having me. It's great to be with the Hip Hop Lobbyists.
And as you were saying, if you can't keep it real, I'll be a straight shooter on my platform, then you can't be a straight shooter at all. So
that's it.
No suits, no scripts. Let's just get into it. Tell me more about yourself and your service to the state of Georgia.
Yeah. So again, thank you for having me. My entire life, I started off being raised by a single mother. I'm her only son, and I have three younger sisters. My mother left Georgia in 1959, 1960 time frame, went up to New York, and that's where I was born. 6 years later, after she arrived, she met my dad. And I always start there because when you think about my values, my principles, growing up in that time with a single mom, understanding what the civil rights, understanding what justice, equality, understanding what it means to stand up for yourself, stand up for your community, stand up for your hood.
Right.
So when all that instilled in me during the most formidable years of my life, the first 18 years, I took that into the United States Navy. And I joined the Navy in 1983, July of 1983, and never looked back. The Navy took what my mother taught me in terms of values and principles and then put it on steroids.
Wow.
Again, learning how to stand up for yourself, speak it up for yourself, and having confidence and conviction. And my grandmother, if she was still alive, she would be 106. And she always told me, keep God first,
Amen.
Education second.
Amen.
And I always kept those priorities in. And here I am now as a young 59-year-old, 22 years in the United States Navy, retired lieutenant commander, 7 deployments, 4 combat missions, 2 special operations, 1 humanitarian deployment. And then when I retired in 2005, went into corporate America, did exceptionally well, worked at GE, did that for 10 years. And then my predecessor invited me out to have breakfast with him, mentioned that he was going to retire.
All right.
And for me to run, or at least think about running. And obviously I did, and the rest is history. I got elected in 2016, and now I'm in my 5th term, my 10th year. And so that's 42 years of leadership experience and service, standing up for who I am, standing up for family, standing up for my community, and standing up on those principles. And here we are.
Amen. Amen. Amen to that. And honestly, great story. Great intro, because you not only have the military service, you also professional in the public service aspect as well. So you're not just a career politician to where it's like, hey, I've served for 20 years. I wanted to do this. Or when I was little, I saw Jimmy Carter as governor and I wanted to just be the next governor, right? So that can always be somebody's story. It's like some happen chance circumstance meeting with a politician as their child, and that inspired them to kind of go that path. So you're more the beaten path of, hey, I'm trying to make my parents proud. I'm just trying to live the best journey that I can and walk my walk with God as well as on that path. So that's amazing to actually hear and see. How do you think it transpires into your public service? Like not only your military service and your professional service, because I know honestly from the members I've worked with, they say the biggest thing with politicians, especially in Congress, is that none of them have actually wrote a check. None of them have been executives in any level in some aspect. Some are either super millionaires, family legacy, or whatever. But when it comes to black politicians, it's not really even that family lineage. Sometimes it's just a fact of, hey, a popularity contest. So how does your background and upbringing help prepare you for your public service? What anything?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, right? I think when you think about the role of a governor, there are two main roles. The governor is the chief executive officer of the state and the commander in chief. And so when you look at my 42 years of experience, I am more than qualified to be the chief executive officer. Obviously, working in corporate America fulfills that requirement. But then there's that commander in chief.
Okay.
Serving 22 years, had honorable service. And we often do not think about that particular aspect of the governor, but we all know in this day and time, we have to, because we see the federal government overreaching, federal government using brave men and women to do things in states, I would say in the most unconstitutional way. And so what better governor to stand up for it to a federal government that said, nah, you can't just send your National Guard into my state. You can't just send ICE into my state.
Okay.
Because I know how to exercise the 10th Amendment. And so that's the reason why I truly believe, and again, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I will. No other candidate out of the 11 of us, 11 who are running to become the 84th governor in Georgia, have my qualification to be able to, on day one, stand up for all communities across Georgia, urban, suburban, and rural, black and white, and everything in between. With my kind of resume, we need that kind of governor right now here in Georgia.
Well, here's what I can say, and it was kind of without the technical difficulties, it would have been the passion that would have rolled into this, right? How does that get crossover voters? Like, honestly, if you have a set of Trump voters in Georgia who are looking at the fact of them supporting what ICE and the National Guard is doing, how do you now, as a candidate, win them over to say, you know what, hey, I want to bring more jobs back. I want to make sure that we can get there. And we're getting some questions in the chat we'll get to. King of Alaska, I appreciate that. He asked for what are the plan to bring jobs. I mean, but as governor, I think we can get there. But when it talks about what people are voting for, right? We saw last election, Democrats pushed a candidate on someone that people respected, but they didn't want to put in that position, right? Or they didn't respect at all and thought they were a DEI candidate. So when you have that DEI, immigration, and now you're saying as a candidate, like, hey, I'm not going to have the overreach. I'm going to use the 10th Amendment. How are you going to win Republicans over with that? Just overall, just asking.
Yeah, no, listen, I think that's a fair question. And first thing first, I want to invite your listening audience to go to voteDerrickJackson.org. That's voteDerrickJackson.org. And you'll see I got 8 pillars. And when you examine who I am, understand my background, I know without a shadow of doubt, I'm not going to get all Republicans to vote for me.
Okay.
I already know that, right? I think what often happens is that we get these elected officials to speak to everyone but us.
Okay.
Every year, every election cycle, the reason why we often state that messaging has failed because the messaging is not speaking to us. I'm turning that apex on its head and saying, I'm going to speak to those who want to have an honest day of salary and wages. So I'm the only candidate, for example, here in Georgia, our minimum wage is $5.15.
Okay.
$5.15. Nothing is affordable when you're earning $5.15.
That's real.
And so I introduced a bill, right? See, because this I didn't just wake up to it, to your earlier point.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't just wake up and say I want to run for governor. No, the 10 years I've been a state legislator, I've been talking about increasing the minimum wage. So I have a bill, House Bill 600. Republicans refuse to have any kind of movement on my bill. But my bill articulates this. The first year, you go from $5.15 to $15 minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
The second year, you go to $20.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third year, $27, a more livable wage.
Okay.
So anytime you go from $5 to $27, guess what just took place? The 2.1 million Georgians who are living below the poverty level can now breathe.
Right.
They don't have to live paycheck to paycheck.
I get that.
Now can live in a more decent area if they so choose. Because my goal is to give the citizens the resources and then empower them to make their own decisions how they want their quality of life to be. But I have to be the governor to create that environment and then empower them and then step out of the way.
Now let me ask you there, Rep. Do you think that would scare some businesses away from Georgia? Now you're talking about the retail company. I know that Georgia's been big, Tyler Perry Studios in the movie industry and those different things. Do you think some restaurants would be like, listen, or not restaurants, or Macy's, like retail shops would say, you know what, hey, I'm not going to pay you $25 to sit at the register. AI can do that. I can get an AI bot. Think about this. This is really happening, right? I can go get an AI machine to do your whole job. Why am I going to pay you $5, $15, $20, $25 an hour?
See, so fair. That's a fair question, right? I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last 4 months of this new administration, 8 months, in 4 months, 318,000 Black women lost their jobs.
Facts.
250,000 brothers lost their jobs. So nearly 600,000 Black men and women lost their job simply because they're talking about DEI, right? When is diversity a bad thing? When is equity a bad thing? When is inclusion a bad thing? And so they've used DEI as their ability to basically place nearly 600,000 Black men and women unemployed.
That's real.
And we're not even talking about minimum wage. We're not even talking about salary. We're not even talking about quality of life. We're not even talking about healthcare, public education. They simply going to do the things that they want to do anyway. So I'm saying for any corporation that wants to come to Georgia, this is what it's going to be. I can recall as a little boy,
talk to me.
My mother as a nurse was making 75 cents an hour. Wow. So the argument is always going to be, well, if we increase the minimum wage, then we're going to have to lay off some folks. But conversely, when the CEO and chairman, their pay compensation jumps up 300, 400, 500%, nobody gets let go.
See, I think that the issue with that is that becomes the Bernie Sanders AOC narrative, right? To be honest, because it's more that millionaires, billionaires conversation. I think the average person is sitting here like, you know what, when the pandemic hit and I lost my job, I was at the warehouse. I couldn't go to the warehouse because COVID, right? I couldn't do the other thing. I decided to say, you know what? Let me open up a shop that's going to, and this is just an example, that's going to fix Xbox controllers. and I'm gonna start streaming on TikTok, and all of a sudden I'm gonna get 500 people here, and I'm gonna make a business, and all of a sudden I'd made myself 100,000 there, right? Close to a millionaire. And they're not looking at the fact of the billionaires and everyone else. They're saying, you know what, there's a bit of innovation in here that this pandemic, this situation caused. And I feel that a part of it is when we talk about the minimum wage, you luckily gave a number. Bernie Sanders has been preaching minimum wage, living wage, and they're not giving a number for people to actually have a conversation, right? But then when we're talking about the jobs, and we're talking about the innovation of where we need people to be or where we want people to be long term, don't we think we're kind of stifling it if we're only saying the same things that aren't really going to engage people where they currently are?
No, I think here's the conundrum. We're always going to have advanced technology.
I get that.
I mean, think about it. When my great-great-grandfather and your great-great-grandparents were around, they had a horse and buggy.
Facts.
So they could only push and pull so much with that horse and buggy. Now we got trucks, dualies with long beds. That advanced technology allow for them to haul more stuff without the need of human beings. So you're always going to have technology that can displace people.
Facts.
I get it, right?
Facts.
I mean, we're starting to have a fleet right here in Atlanta, a Waymo, these vehicles that's going to displace those who are Uber and Lyft drivers, right? I mean, right? But you're always going to have a population, though, such as myself, that's not going to get in a Waymo. I want to see a driver. I want to get in an Uber and a Lyft. I'm not going to get in a Waymo, right? And so I just think out of the 340 million citizens in the United States, you're not going to have early adopters jump ship all the time.
Okay.
You're going to have a level of constituency in consumers who are going to say, I prefer to have a remote control versus having Siri or Alexa turn on and off my television.
That's true. That's very true.
So corporations got to think about that too. Corporation got to say, you know what? I can have AI be my call center, but the consumer is going to say, no, I want to speak to a human being if I got a problem with this particular product.
No, not to cut you off there, but a fluid conversation, right? And I think there's a difference on how corporate America is looking at it. And I'm looking at a stock I look at, Open Door. And you know, Redfin and Open Door, they basically have all the real estate, right? And for people that may be in the meme stocks or options trading, they know that Open Door was roughly 50 cents, about to be delisted in July, right? Skyrocketed, it's not skyrocketed, but from there, $2-3 is, I think, $8-10, whatever, right? There's a part of it to say, the new CEOs come in and say, hey, we have 1,400 employees. We need to have AI. We can probably cut that down to 300 employees, save some money, right? Cool. And then on top of it, they put out a memo last week to say, hey, we don't want them to use Google Docs and Google Sheets anymore. Use AI. So it's almost a fact of corporate America saying, hey, we need to teach AI how to do the job for the call centers. So they're used to and have the data for these responses, right? To make them more efficient, more profits. But at the same time, I think that dovetails into Black women being unemployed, Black men being unemployed, people losing their jobs collectively around AI. Because even in the film industry, is huge in Georgia, in the South. AI being used for voice mods or even people in movies. So you have the Screenwriters Guild and all those other folks saying, listen, you shouldn't be able to put my intellectual property, what God's given me is a power to write a script and feed it to AI, and AI is giving you a whole script for a movie to where I'm worthless now. So even my product would never be able to match up to technology. So now we're at a point of iRobot. So how do we collectively say, oh, you know what, cool. How do we have AI help our businesses, help it with our governance, but have some kind of AI governance to make sure that people won't get displaced for it, and the people who are displaced, that we have a plan for them.
That's true. But so let me take your example
and
add a little bit more spice to it.
Okay.
When Apple, the late Steve Jobs, started to introduce these devices, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had the iPhone already out in the marketplace. But then about 5 or 6 years later, he introduced, I was looking for my iPad. He introduced the iPad.
Right.
And everybody says, Steve Jobs, we don't want no oversized iPhone, and we don't want to displace our laptop. Steve Jobs said, but there's still a market for this thing called an iPad. He rolled it out in that September 2006, 7, something like that. And he sold 15 million. Do we still have laptops? Yes.
Yes, I'll get
Do
you.
we still have iPhones? Yes. Do we still have e-readers? Yes. So my point is, which is to your point, how do we leverage AI, for example? Not every law firm is going to displace their paralegal and institute AI.
Right.
Some of them going to say, I still need my paralegal to do A, B, and C. My point is, how do we leverage advanced technology, still incorporate it into our professional daily lives, etc.? How do we monetize it? Yeah, I think you also, I want to, again, add a little nuance to your point. This also provides not just for major corporations, but those entrepreneurs, which is the reason why I got an entrepreneur incubator program when I become governor. And that is take these 700,000 small businesses in Georgia and create this entrepreneur incubator program where I would give you $50,000 grant, not a loan, a $50,000 grant to improve your business, either marketing, advanced technology, hiring more staffs, whatever the industry, whatever your vision is, right? I just empowered that entrepreneur $50,000 to be able to do whatever they think they need to expand upon their vision and carve out their niche. Why should I do that? Because every major business that started off small, the government helped create and made them bigger. I'm gonna give you Tesla as an example. Elon Musk, before he even went public, the federal government gave Elon Musk nearly $400 million. 400 million.
I mean, it's facts. It's
Okay?
facts that's out there. He has government contracts.
That's right. And so here we are a decade later. Tesla is part of our society. It didn't displace gas vehicles. Folks still got gas vehicles. We were on this push to make a more cleaner, fresh breathing society. They put all their chips in Elon Musk and Tesla, made him the world's richest man, right? So government plays a role in identifying where they want to go, which entrepreneurs and small businesses that they want to grow. And this is what we do all the time.
I get that.
We call it incentives. You call it, loans. You call it grants. Call it PPP. Whatever it is, federal government, right, is playing a role in creating entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires. So I'm just saying, let's start that same process. I'm not creating something new that hasn't been done over the decade. All I'm saying is, let's do that in our community, because no one has a monopoly on great ideas. It's just that we keep getting left behind.
All right.
And so one of the things I learned in the Navy, we don't leave anybody behind. The reason why we're so upset in terms of the Black and brown community is because we keep being asked, give us your vote, get us in office, and then we don't speak to you for another 4 years. That's not my process. That's not how I'm approaching this. I'm saying I'm listening to our communities, and I'm listening to the communities that have been ignored the most.
I get that.
And what happens to be our community that's been ignored the most.
And I can't. I didn't want to shift there this early, but I get it. And I'm not gonna act like I don't see it, but at least being fair to the audience, just conversations like, what, we know that we're displaced, right? We know the underserved populations, and to the audience, me and Rep Jackson met early July. We talked about having this conversation, and through some things, are finally getting the show back together. But we discussed this in particular because there doesn't seem to actually be a solution with Black elected officials. And I'm saying it from an aspect of, and I know, from you being an elected official, me being a lobbyist in Florida, that outside of Black Caucus Week, like they just went to DC, there's not a lot of involvement on issues. So even us having this conversation is almost beating a dead horse, because this conversation happens everywhere. But when it needs to happen in a political building, when it needs to happen in a foundation or anything that's moving legislation that's going to actually create these conversations, or being in the room where it happens, being at the table to say, you know what, I need to carve out this little bit for my community, my district, Southwest Atlanta, North Atlanta, South Georgia, whatever, right? And I think the problem ends up being we focus so much on skin color, right, that it hinders us, because a lot of the Black electeds respectfully be full of shit, right? It's their first time being popular, or they've wanted to do this their whole life, right? Maybe they're a Jack and Jill baby, where their daddy was a dentist. Now all of a sudden you're a doctor. Oh, I've got to be a state rep because that's next in my lineage, right? So we don't get a quality of people who are actually out here to help the community. We get a quality of Negroes, KNEEGROs, who just want to sit here and basically put their knee down on other people because they know, and and I know. I'm going to keep it real, right? We got to keep it real on Hip Hop Lobbyist podcast, show, whatever we want to call it. When the shit get over, you get off the floor, y'all in the offices drinking Hennessy, and not disparaging the community. It's more of a fact of, if people only knew what was really the fuck happening, we wouldn't be out here talking this bullshit. We would be at the table talking about the $500 million or the $80 million or whatever it is, but we're not there. And a part of it is we're focused so much on the skin color that we lose a fact of the movement, which is actually a fact of, okay, what are we doing about education, public school, charter school, getting it in? What are we doing about healthcare? It's not just, to the point, it's not just abortion. What are we doing about women's breast cancer, right? What are we doing across the board about issues that matter in our communities, right? And that's where the disconnect comes in. So we end up going down this thing of, we have to serve the underserved communities. We've been displaced through slavery, the white man, the federal government. We need this, but there's no plan. And I say it this way, and this is the shot at everybody who may have went to DC to speak on the panel. How many panels do we have to speak about the same issue year after year? So now we're here. You're running for Georgia governor. You're looking at the Black voters. You're looking at the white voters. You're looking at Black Republicans, white Democrats. You're looking at the issues. How do you convince them to say, hey, if you don't agree with me on my minimum wage, where can we find common ground? And I think that's where we get lost in the race conversation, because even the Blacks that are elected lose focus, respectfully, right? And I think I'm going to segue to the main point. It puts us in a situation where we trust the women to lead our path with the politics, right? And I'm not making this a chauvinistic thing in the Black community. It's more like, okay, in Georgia, you have Stacey Abrams, who's run 2 or 3 times. She may run again, right? You have Keisha Lance Bottoms, former mayor of Atlanta, who's kind of get out there. Then you have other people out there who are leaning the old Democratic way to say, hey, these are the issues that impact Black women, abortion rights, whatever. Not to say whatever, but it's like, the same thing. And it's like, there's nothing that speaks to the Black male issue or men, right? So when you're speaking to men in Georgia, let's take race out of it for a second. 2 Black men speaking about non-race issues just to men. What do you have for men in the state of Georgia? And my apologies for the long soliloquy to get there. Just trying to get a good transition. But
listen, bro, Phil, as you stated, you and I talked about this in July. My very first policy for brothers, those who look like you and I mean, it may sound cheesy, but let me lean into the camera. We need to have a policy to keep brothers alive. Why is it that we just had 2 brothers hung, lynched at Delta University. One was at Delta University. I forget where the other one was located.
The other one was a white homeless man in Vicksburg.
Okay, well, when you look at his picture, it looked like he either had a good tan or something.
Yeah. We addressed that one, but I just wanted to clarify that one. I got you.
All right, but be that what it may, you had two individuals lynched, and it was in a news cycle for 24 hours. That was it. During a week before that, an individual was killed in Utah, and we're still hearing about it. We're still hearing about it.
Well, I think it's.
So follow me for a second.
Okay, I got you.
My point is, there's got to be a level where they see Black men and Black boys as human.
Okay.
If we can't start there, then I can't see them as executives. I can't see them as entrepreneurs. I can't see them as anything else. I can't see them as husbands, fathers, sons, uncles, right? Our society has created this image to where when it comes to folks that look like us, right, that our lives are insignificant. You gotta start there. So I want to remove all those things that threatens our life. We want to live O2. That's first.
I get that.
And I'm just keeping it real, right? Because I can recall my mother, who was a nurse for nearly 4 decades, and the horror stories when she was about to retire, it seemed like it was like every week, right? I mean, just think about the last 5 years, from George Floyd to Eric Gardner. I mean, it would seem like it was like a sport in killing us. We have families, we have children. We want to become an employer or an employee or entrepreneurs too.
See,
but you can't do those things if you're dead.
True.
And so what do we got to do to change that environment? Justice, equality, and humanity.
See, and I get that. I get wholeheartedly where we're at, like the humanity part of where we are, right? And before Charlie Kirk, because we mentioned the gentleman in Utah, before Charlie Kirk, there was a demonization of us, Black men, right?
Yeah.
Here's the issue. I'm dropping my son off at school the other day, 8 o'clock in the morning. There's an AutoZone close to the school. As I'm turning, I see the workers come out, a gentleman running out with the Armor All to clean your dashboard, right? That and some paper towels, bucking it out of AutoZone. The police just happen to be there, so they're looking at, hey, he's there. And it's going, and I say, I ain't got nothing to do for another 30 minutes. Let me just turn down and see what happens, right? Just in case, because you never know. It's Jacksonville, so JSO. We've seen what happens, right? Cool. So I go and I see the buddy. I'm like, wait, he's running with this. And I say, damn, I see what Charlie Kirk talking about. Because out of all the shit, respectfully, why are you stealing some Armor All from AutoZone at 8 in the morning, right? Not to say criminal labor, but it's like, damn, why are we acting this way sometimes? Because I think it's to open up to say, you know what, damn, we can't complain about the YNs in our community and then act like I'm not saying scared, but we don't see the YNs as a problem in our community too, right? Because I'm not saying that Charlie Kirk is right or Nick Fuentes is right. He's another right-wing activist who basically criminalizes Black men. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing that's addressing the fact of we're criminalizing. It's a narrative out there to be scared of us. But then you have some vigilantes and some fools out here doing dumb shit. They justify the narrative that's getting out there. But then when they see us, they're automatically scared. So what can we do to say, hey, you know what, cool. Even if I'm preaching politics, even if I'm preaching from the pulpit, what can we do collectively to make people less scared of us? We're demonized, even our young men.
I mean, listen, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that we got some things to clean up in our backyard, right? But part of this systemic structure of racism, that racism impacts employment, racism impacts uh, your life, your health. Racism impacts where you live. Racism, and so this thing has been going on since 1612.
I'll give you that.
Right? And so if a child is not equipped with the ability to have the appropriate literacy by the third grade, government is saying we need to design a prison bed for that child, for that child. But for another child that may not have the same pigmentation, that also do not have literacy at the third grade, they're not saying we're going to send that child to a prison eventually. They're saying we see hope in that child. So we'll let. So I'm gonna give you a perfect example. The current president has extorted universities, colleges, Fortune 500 companies. In 8 months, his family, him and his family, have garnered $7.3 billion according to Forbes.
Another $25 million that came in from YouTube today too.
Okay. Can you imagine, bro, if Barack Obama did that?
I mean,
Barack Obama, a constitutional lawyer,
I get you.
Harvard trained, Columbia. So all I'm saying, when all things are equal, right? Again, I get what we need to do. We need some things to clean up, but I'm talking about those things that can be seen on a national level. Because what end up happening is somebody will say, I think I can do that same thing. So let me run for office and tell, I don't want to mention company names, so I'm gonna say company A, B, and C. And so company A, I need you to give me 10% of that merger acquisition deal. Company B, I need you to do this. Hey, university, I need you to do that. Hey, college, I need you to do this. Or individuals, DEF, I need you to give me some money too. And you're doing extortion. We all know extortion is against the law. We all know blackmail is against the law. We know these things, and we're seeing it. So somebody else is going to try to duplicate that and go, well, wait a minute. If he or she did it, why are you sending the feds to me? So all I'm saying is I'm not justifying criminal activity.
Yeah.
I'm just saying when you have a systemic structural system that's been around for 400 years that specifically deals with justice with one category of people in a certain way, and then deal with another category of people in a different kind of way, the outcome is going to be different. So you're always going to have group A and group B having a problem.
So how do you fix? How do we fix that as governor? Right now, again, real quick.
You won't.
Go ahead.
Yeah. You won't fix it overnight, right? Something that's been around for 400 years, you ain't gonna fix it overnight. But what you can do is start with changing some of these laws. There's no reason why we cannot decriminalize marijuana. There's no reason why someone that looks like you and I in jail right now, 15, 20 years for marijuana, but then someone else who was handling cocaine was sent to a resort. They've been rehabilitated after 45, 60 days. Then they get a movie deal, and now they're worth $100 million.
I mean, that's facts. That's facts. But here's something that I think helps and hurts the conversation, right? I think. No, I'm not anti. I'm just trying to be fair for the conversation. Let's be fair and balanced for being real, right?
Yep.
I don't feel that we can always go back 400 years to slavery, right? And look at the government construct, because this is why I'm saying it this way. Even as governor, you don't have any legislative power, right? As a legislator, you're one of many in a body. So you need the whole body to agree, right? So really, from an aspect of uncrippling everything from 400 years, Jim Crow, Reconstruction, it's hard to do that in one cycle. It's a generational move to undo all this, right? So to be fair, I think that when you're looking at that construct and say, okay, cool, we're criminalized, right? I think that is different from current day solutions. You feel me? Because we're looking at the fact of this happened, the causation, but we're not looking at the fact of, okay, cool, respectfully, nobody's saying to any black kid in Georgia, it is illegal for you to read a book, right? Nobody's saying.
They're banning your book that deals with those that look like you. So, for example,
go ahead.
If you ban books, let's say a young black man wants to become a lawyer and learn about Thurgood Marshall, but now the government says, I'm going to ban Thurgood Marshall book around civil rights and Jim Crow laws. So that's what I'm saying. But they're not banning Perry Mason books. I'm just using Perry Mason as a fictional character, but they're not banning Perry Mason book. So that's what I'm saying. We gotta, and I appreciate you bringing this up, because about 2 years ago, I made a statement to the local press that we have to stop with the false equivalency, right? The false equivalency is saying, hey, you know, Chicago got all this crime going on, black on black crime, Chicago. But who's committing the crime in the number one state right now, which is Alaska? Who are that? Who's committing the crimes in Alaska? What population is conducting all these mass shootings? So somebody will say, well, the DC sniper, okay, I'll give you one. Now give me, how about the other million?
Well, it's been 2,200 in the country this year. So, but I don't,
right?
I get you.
We're not crashing a truck into a church with C4 and
gasoline,
semi-automatics and killing people. We're not the ones sitting in church like a Mother Emmanuel amongst some parishioners and the pastor for a whole hour after they pray over us, and then we turn around and kill them. We're not doing that.
Yeah, it's different though, because what we are doing.
No. Crime is crime.
Yeah, crime is crime. But
mass shooting is mass shooting.
Okay.
Right? There's more white on white crime than there's black on black crime. But if we allow for the narrative to still have us thinking, learn, according to the FBI reports, that Chicago is not even in the top 10. Phil?
I get that, but then I'll let you finish. I want to go back to false equivalency, but I want you to finish first. I got you.
So that's point number one. Point number two, you can't say, man, we don't want folks breaking in stores when your minimum wage is $5.15 for the last 24 years. When meanwhile they see everybody else making all the haves, making all this money.
I think that goes to. I think that goes to, like, if you see that on social media now, it's like this is my thought, and it's a couple things. Let me get this out real quick. I don't agree with, if I'm making $5.15, I should go bust in somebody's store and steal some shit. I made $5.15 in Winn-Dixie, but I mean, just to put it out there. I get you. Trust me. Go ahead, Rep. Yeah. Just because you are a rep. I don't want to get out there.
No, I'm not saying that's the impetus of it. I'm saying do we not all want to have a desired life or whatever that shape is and have access to it?
See, and that's the thing. To me, almost a false equivalency there too as well. Just to I like the way you put that together, right? Because it's like, okay, if you're making 515, I don't want to make that. There's a young lady in my neighborhood who says, you know what? I will make little lily dillies or little cups and make my own little business and make a lemon stand, right? So the lemonade stand is different from the 515 an hour, right? It's the mindset of the child of the person. But then also going back to reading, I get the part of Chicago and the crime stats, right? I brought it up here on the other day. So you know what? I think it's the narrative of overpopulation. Because percentage 13%, we are a certain amount of percent, 30, 40% of the federal population, or jail population, cool. But when we look at DUI arrests, Caucasians are 80% of all DUI arrests in America. 75% of all juvenile arrests are Caucasian young males, right? Or young folks. 7% are arsons, financial crimes, the rest of them. They're not gang shootings, right? They're not muggings. But should you be scared of the black man walking down the street in the middle of the night or the Caucasian man who just left happy hour, right? It gives you something to think about when you think about DUIs and what could impact a quality of life there. But to the main point, false equivalency, you're just going back here. I think that when we're banning books, like the Thurgood Marshall piece, I think is a great example. The issue I have is you could ban the books all day. These niggas ain't reading. See, I think the issue, I had this conversation with my father-in-law. And they were talking about the church taking African-American history and teaching African-American kids more. I said, you know what? That's great. But guess what? What about all these third grade reading levels that y'all have known about for 20 plus years, right? The black church has known about that for 20 plus years. The black community has known about that for 20 plus years. The school to prison pipeline ain't nothing new, right? So when we've known about this issue, now all of a sudden we mad that they're banning books. Oh, when was the last time you took your child to the library? Right? If you were taking your child to the library, you know what the government wouldn't be doing? Let me ask you, Rep, how many years have y'all defunded libraries or cut the funding for libraries in Georgia?
Oh shoot, they've been doing that a good 15 years.
So if we've been taking our kids to the library to read, do you think they'll still be defunding?
Only in our community. You go to Alpharetta, man, that thing looks like a college.
Yeah, but are we taking our kids to go read?
But not in College Park.
But are we taking our kids to go read is the question.
If we have it in our community, yes.
Okay. My issue is
that's my point. If you look at the 537 cities in Georgia, all 537 cities. Now I'm just going to carve out the urban area, not the suburban and the rural for a second, because rural is even more devastating.
Okay.
The black population cities in rural Georgia, they lack so much resources. Heck, some of them, bro, they still got dirt roads.
I believe it.
Dirt roads. Some of them don't even have broadband, internet. And I'm not talking about 100 years ago. I'm talking about when we had to shut things down and told everybody shelter in place during COVID 5 years ago. So the children in Atlanta, shoot, man, they went home. They got laptops. They were still being educated, but not the kids in rural Georgia.
I get that. There is
no internet. They have no laptop.
I get that.
So to tell a child that's been displaced that you no longer can go to school for right now for the next 2 or 3 months while we figure out this deadly COVID, the children in Atlanta, shoot, man, didn't skip a beat. Right? They got Zoom and everything.
Yeah.
Broadband, right? But there's 4 million people that living in rural Georgia. Their experience was completely different. Hospitals are closing in rural Georgia. 12 of them, to be exact. You know where most deaths are in Georgia right now?
Rural Georgia?
Take a guess. Rural Georgia.
Wow.
20 years ago, 12 counties, 12 out of 159 counties have more deaths than births. 12. Today is 94 counties having more deaths than births. So when somebody says in rural Georgia, excuse me, what about us? Y'all keep asking, y'all, we only see you every 4 years for our vote. You only speak to us every 4 years. My hospitals are closing. I got dirt roads. I'm losing my farm. So that's why I'm saying the equivalency, bro, is not the same.
Okay.
If it was 1-to-1 ratio, absolutely, I will support your argument. But the challenge is that those who've been left behind for 400 years, all they keep seeing is the gulf. It started off as a little pond, then it ended up to be a lake, then it ended up becoming an ocean. And so that that precipitates from generation to generation. Listen, if my mother did not have the education attainment, let's say my mother had a 3rd grade education. What kind of education you think me and my sister gonna have?
I get
my
you.
Mother had 3rd grade education.
Amen. Let's go.
Right?
That's real.
So all I'm saying is what separates me from all the other candidates, 1, I'm speaking with authenticity. 2, I'm showing up in those places where citizens have been left behind, families devastated. And we don't have to go far. We go 2 hours away from Atlanta, and you think you're in a 3rd world country in certain parts.
I get that. The back roads of Georgia scary.
They have no lights, bro.
Yeah.
If you catch a flat tire at midnight, there's no service station.
Yeah, that's scary, especially in the back roads of Georgia, especially being a black man in Georgia, knowing the history of Georgia. But you know what, Rep, how much more time do you have? I know we started late. I don't want to hold you too much longer.
Oh, no, shoot, man. We can do 30 more minutes. I'm good.
All right, the chat, we're going to go to 11 real quick. If it's your first time here, I am the hip hop lobbyist, professional lobbyist in the state of Florida. And I have, I'll say, my good friend, State Representative Derrick Jackson, a candidate for governor in Georgia. Now, you know, and I know, Georgia's a red state, but the state map has actually made it more competitively for Democrats. And collectively, I don't think, like I said earlier when we had some technical difficulties, I don't think Democrats have a message on the national level. So that's why I said, you know what, let me bring a candidate on, a state representative on, elected official on, to talk about the issues, to basically say, okay, 1, let's learn more about the candidate, and 2, let's talk about some of the issues. And we haven't got to his entire platform, but I do think that it at least has opened up some conversations and some questions in the chat as well. But honestly, looking at 11, just back to the race real quick, 11 competitors. Is that just in the Democratic primary?
7 Democrats, 4 Republicans.
Okay, seven Democrats, 4 Republicans. I would say, what separates you from the 7? I know we said it earlier, but just if there's another refresher that you want to just, for the audience here, we've had over 26,000 people tap in today, over 183 to here right now. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for tapping in. But overall, if you could just refresh, like, why are you the best candidate to be the next governor of Georgia, Democrat or Republican?
Yeah. So what makes me the best, most qualified candidate is because I'm the only candidate that's been keeping it real. I don't come in with, listen, the Navy gave me an opportunity to have as many titles, being a retired lieutenant commander. Then I went to corporate America. I had title. This is not about titles for me. This is about finally figuring out what my calling is. And that's to speak up for my people. Frederick Douglass said it best, right? Frederick Douglass was never elected, but he realized when he challenged Abraham Lincoln, he told Abraham Lincoln in 1862, he said, you giving plantation owners $300 per slave. Because Abraham Lincoln had to, he knew in his mind, he's got to give them up. He got to give up this free labor, right? Because if folks really want to do away with minimum wage, they'll want free labor again, but that's another point. But Frederick Douglass said, no, you got to do the right thing for my people. And then Abraham Lincoln turned around in Congress 2 or 3 months later, August 1862, gave every European white man 160 acres. So $300 per slave head and 160 acres for free. And this is when Frederick Douglass said, well, wait a minute. We about to become free. You got to give us something.
Right.
Again, this is the person that was never elected. He wasn't looking for a title or anything. You got to give my people something. And that's where the 40 acres and a mule came up. In November of 1862, when Congress was about to go off for a holiday recess, they lined it out. A few weeks later, we received our freedom. And that's when they start putting things in place with this whole sharecropper, right? My great-great-grandfather was a sharecropper, making 5 cents for a whole day's work. No person who's working full-time, 40 hours a week, and a decent livable wage should be paycheck to paycheck. No person that's full-time should not have the necessary benefits, healthcare, medical, dental. No person that's working full-time should not have at least the opportunity to take their family on one vacation. So I'm just talking about the bare minimum. But when you don't have those opportunities, then somebody got to stand up. As John Lewis said, when you see something that's not right, not fair, unjust, we have a moral obligation to do something. And that's where I'm exercising my moral obligation with my 42 years of leadership experience and service. 22 years in the Navy. No other candidate have 22 years in the military. And we need a governor who is also wears the hat of commander-in-chief, because I would be that governor and say, you cannot bring your National Guard. You cannot bring ICE in here and just intimidate our citizens. I met so many family members who are afraid of leaving their homes to go to work. This one mother with a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, she said, our democracy is already gone. She already think in her mind that democracy is gone because this Latina, if she leaves to go to a grocery store or go to work, if she gets detained and deported, she has the fear of no one's going to take care of her 10, 12, and her 14-year-old.
Yeah,
I'm the best candidate because I'm focusing on those things, not just democracy, not just our rights, not just, right? You got to be able to chew bubblegum and walk. And that's what 42 years of experience. This is not a popularity contest for me. Well, this is not about a title.
I get that. Well, what about the people who are like, you know what, shit? Last winter, they were singing, I will vote for Donald Trump. Now all of a sudden we have to be humane. And I'm just being, this is barbershop conversation. You know, that's what people are saying. It's like, listen, why are we sitting here? We told y'all what would happen. Now what's happened is happened, and y'all want us to sit here and save you. So no, I'm not going to clock in, but this ain't my fight. And I think a lot of it collectively could be in the Black culture and community. We have to start fighting our fight, right? And I think a part of it is, like someone in the chat said, you know what, are we going back to slavery? It's like we got to talk about today. We're talking about today. This is what y'all voted for. And as bad as somebody will say, yes, I care about your 10, your 14, and your 12-year-old. Yes. But guess what? They're going to probably pack them up and take their ass too, right? Because that's the attitude that people are on, because it's a scare tactic that the immigrants are coming to take your jobs on the roof, take your jobs on the strawberry farm, take your jobs in the hotel cleaning bed sheets, because you don't want to work these jobs. They're working these jobs. And all of a sudden we've demonized it, right? So now we're in a situation where we told y'all this would happen. Now what's happened? Now what? To the main point, I think it puts Democrats in a situation where you're almost throwing your support behind illegal immigration while you're trying to be humane. And I'm not saying don't be humane, but it's like there's no counter argument to that when they're like, listen, hey, what about the jobs?
Whenever we do something for us, everyone else benefits. We had to do the Civil Rights Act for us, so everyone else benefited from it too. We had to do the Voting Rights Act for us, right? Think about it. I mean, the Constitution, that which I gave the oath to 17 times. No other candidate, Democrat or Republican, gave the oath 17 times like I have. 12 times in the Navy, 5 times as a state legislator, right? The oath doesn't have an expiration. The oath also doesn't have a color to it. The problem is the implementation and the execution of it. And so we need someone to make sure, right? I'm not a savior, but our ancestors had to fight the good fight so we may have the ability to do what we do now. If not, Jim Crow, which lasted 87 years,
Facts.
right? So think about Reconstruction. Reconstruction only lasted 12 years, from 1865 to 1877, 12 years. Black men who were setting everything up from HBCUs, land grants, right? They were setting up the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment. Black men now, because Black women weren't in politics then. Black men. And so the Great Compromise, what they call it, I call it something else. Because they kicked all the Black men out of office in 1877, right? But they still did their part to put things in place. So even Thomas Woodrow Wilson, when he became president, he could not take out the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. It was already in place as much as he wanted to. So they created this whole Jim Crow for 87 years. This is the reason why, going back to your previous question, it's not going to turn around overnight.
Right.
But the little bit of work that we can do from year to year, term to term, by making the right decision, because we already witnessed, if you make the wrong decision off a popularity contest, they're going to play us. It's the whole bamboozle, hoodwink, run them up, all that, what Malcolm X said. So we got to make sure that we say, we know our candidate of choice. We don't care who else getting this race. We're going to back this person. Because see, the truth be told, Georgia is not a red state. We just vote red, but it's not a red state.
Yeah, it's more purple.
The reason why we know it's not a red state, because we got a Black man and a Jew as a senator. Georgia is the reason why we got Ketanji Brown Jackson as a Supreme Court justice. So the power is in our hands. The same thing goes for Florida. Barack Obama flipped Florida. So when people start this, they try to put this psychological game on us for saying, oh, that's a red state, that's a blue state. No, it's just how they vote. But the people didn't move, right? We all pack our bags after Barack Obama, left office. No, the people that voted blue and made Florida blue when Barack won Florida, those folks are still there.
Well, not necessarily. Some of them actually moved to Georgia. I will say, from our cost of living, here,
okay,
for some people they've moved to Georgia. I think there's a strong Palm Beach contingent, South Florida contingent that's in the Atlanta area as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Listen, absolutely.
So I think that's there. Something you said earlier, I wanted to go back to. I didn't take notes on it. I should have just wanted to talk about one of your greatest achievements as an elected. Well, no, sorry. No, sorry, I do remember. Excuse me there. You brought up the Reconstruction piece was only 12 years. Jim Crow was roughly 80, right? Between that time frame, there was no Black members in the United States Congress, respectfully, right? But the first Black member was from Illinois. Not Barack Obama, but first Black senator was from Illinois. And when he was asked about the issues in the Black community, and this goes earlier, he basically said, you know what? I'm not coming up here to worry about the Negro being able to sit in the Capitol to get a haircut. I'm not here for that. My people elected me in Illinois to represent their issues. And this is what I'm here for, right? So what ends up happening is, like we said earlier, bringing it full circle, right? We talk about these issues 400 years, not collectively, respectfully. You're not the first Black man to ever serve in Georgia, period, right? You're not the first Black man to ever run for Georgia governor. We've seen Herschel Walker, he flamed out on it, right? We have Raphael Warnock, right? Cool. Collectively, Raphael Warnock not going to talk about reparations, right? Because he knows collectively, when you go to the tax base, where's that tax money going to come from? We can talk about the conversation all day. It's going to take more than a generation to uncouple this, right? But when it comes to it, trying to get the right question.
Let me answer your question.
Go ahead.
Because I already know where you're going, bro. For your listening audience, anybody want to tell me the difference between reparations and tax cuts?
Anybody in the chat know the difference between reparations and tax cuts? I can give my answer, but I'll wait on y'all. That's not moving on now.
Government, while your listening audience coming up with the answer, let me just go ahead and get straight to the point. Nothing. Government takes in tax dollars and redistribute. So we just watched this big ugly bill. They did a $1.7 trillion tax cut. That $1.7 trillion tax cut is going to go to the top 1%. Anybody want to tell me the population of the top 1% in this country?
Respectfully, I think that's all just a narrative too, at the same time.
But what's the top 1% population?
I don't know.
Give me the demographics of the top.
They're all Caucasian.
So who's going to get the significant number of that $1.7 trillion?
I could be fair and finish it and say Caucasian people, but it's just the fact of when you read through the big beautiful bill, it impacts Caucasian people too. I think this is what I see. This is what I see.
It's not going to impact those. It's not going. The ones who are living in the trailer park are not going to get the advantage of that 1.7 trillion.
Yeah. No.
Billionaires are going to get the advantage of that 1.7 trillion dollars.
See,
so
but
out of the 400 billionaires, I'm bringing it home.
I got you.
400 billionaires. How many black billionaires of the 400 billionaires?
Maybe one. Maybe no. Maybe like 10, because they're more African money than it is U.S. money.
So 10 out of 400.
See, but this is why I get into it, just to be respectful. Yeah. I just buy that as a Democratic talking point. You know why? Because when you read through the big beautiful bill, and you see that there's a child tax credit, say, you know what, Derrick Jackson, my son, you may not know my son, but he's known as Big POTUS, right? Business is at a game, POTUS. We know what POTUS is. And the tax cut, the big beautiful bill says that if you want to write off maybe $12,000, you could invest in a scholarship in my son's education, right? If you say, you know what, cool, Phil, I got some money I want to invest into the new energy project that needs to get done by 2027. Shit, guess what? It's all in the big beautiful bill. There are parts of the bill itself that most people don't know, that we generalize as the billionaires and the millionaires and everything else. But when you go through it and you talk to people who actually have issues about it, they're like, you know what? Shit, yes. I may want to put my kid in private school or charter school. I want to know more about that program specifically. Yep. Yes, guess what? Even if you bought a Tesla, you're losing your $7,500 EV tax credit. It's a simple fact of, well, shit, you probably weren't paying into the gas tax, so you were tearing down the roads. The asphalt isn't good for the roads and the environment in the first place. So fuck you and your tax credit, because guess what? Y'all are only 5 to 10% of the entire vehicles in the entire damn market anyway. So F your tax credit, right? There are a part to where we demonize the bill without fully explaining the bill. And as an elected, and and I know, once those narratives get out there, those narratives are harder than the facts, right? So I think it's collectively, respectfully, the billionaires on the Democratic side versus the billionaires on the Republican side. And the billionaires on the Democratic side are mad, so they're trickling this narrative on down to be like, hey, yeah, this is the unjust part of it. And I know that because I have clients on the other side that are impacted by the shit. So that's how I know that the millionaires and billionaires, it's a fight that's outside of our control that we're having a conversation about. So that's why when it gets to, okay, movement of policy that impacts black culture and black people, we cannot lean it all and blame it all on Republicans when we have our own internal issues. We got to be real, right? But at the same time, we can't put our hope in black electors that are sorry. You know what they say about black electors? I'm going to say it to be honest, right? They say, I've heard some white lobbyists here through the grapevine come to me. Black electors are only good for eating pussy, sucking dick, and partying. The first two I'm not even gonna validate, but that last one's damn near true, right? I feel a part of the issue is, right? I really feel a part of the issue is the leaders are blind, right? Not you, but our leadership is blind because they know that if they can put this narrative out there and they can continue to blame it on the billionaires and the millionaires and everybody that has and have nots, just like the Tyler Perry show, that'll continue to keep the people right where they are without actually being involved in the process. That's my personal opinion on it. Sorry for the soliloquy to get there.
No. Listen, I appreciate that. The reason why folks are able to do exactly as you articulated, because they do not read the bill. I'm a nerd. You can tell behind me. I'm a PhD candidate. I love reading. I love researching. I love numbers. Right? I read the Project 2025. I read the Big Ugly Bill. I don't care if it's 2 pages or 944 pages. Right?
I get you.
Because as the employee, see, my constituents are the employer. I represent my constituency. And so when I go and defend and debate issues, rest assured, my employers know that their employee have synthesized and digested that bill. And so I'm able to come back and say, you know that $12,000 piece that you mentioned? Mm-hmm. How many friends and family members and colleagues you know who can just stroke a check? $12,000.
Hey, not a lot. Not a lot.
I'll wait.
Yeah, not a lot, to be honest. And and that's nothing I don't ask either.
Warren Buffett says, y'all giving me $40 million and I don't even want it. Warren Buffett, and I'm just using 1 billion. Warren Buffett said, why my secretary pay more taxes than me? See, because a billionaire can afford to get a tax attorney. Everybody else is going to tax, TurboTax.
Yeah, TurboTax.
And H&R Block.
Yeah. Which they invested in to make money.
They know exactly where the loopholes are, right? Some people may or may not can afford a CPA, but if you can afford a tax attorney to do your taxes,
it's game over.
Okay? Who's writing the laws and the bills? When they go to lobbyists, you know the lobbyist game better than me, right? The lobbyists act on behalf of their client.
Yeah.
So let's write this nuance in this bill. I don't care about the other 2 or 3 pages of the 900 pages. Just make sure you get this little piece in there for my client.
I feel you. That's all you need. But I think, and this is the issue, right? This is why I have an issue with Jasmine Crockett. I love Jasmine Crockett, right? I love her content because I think a firebrand's needed. But it's like, we can talk about the issue, but teach the people how to make that change. Right? Because that's the most constructive part. You know, shall, must, and may are the most 3 powerful words in politics, right? Because it determines what shall happen with a law, what may happen, or what must happen with a law, right? So when you really break that down, it's like, okay, we have an issue, but here's a problem, right? Nobody in Kentucky is going to talk about the impact this will have on Mitch McConnell. Why don't you go shop this language? Because here's what I tell people. And you're an elected official. State elected officials. So you know this is if a lobbyist comes to you, if a constituent comes to you and says, hey, I have an environmental issue that I need to deal with, right? It's flooding in our backyard is because of this river. Cool. How is that different from a lobbyist telling you exactly the statute and provision you need to change in law?
Well, first off, the lobbyists have a lot of money and clout behind them, right? More than my constituent. My constituent may be one or a group of individuals who are simply saying, you know, Representative Jackson, we want a fresh air to breathe. Why do we got to put this plant over here?
Right.
Why we got to do this big box, this e-commerce, or this data center, whatever the case may be? Well, they don't want me to tell them, hey, you form a lobbyist or form a PAC, because you have to have the necessary pieces in this chessboard to be able to effectively maneuver. It's not it's not more than, it's more than just voting in your candidate of choice.
Facts.
It's more than just holding them accountable. It's understanding the totality. We grew up during the age of Schoolhouse Rock. Schoolhouse Rock, even on a Saturday morning, eating my cereal at my mother's big Tupperware bowl, I'm learning about the Constitution. I'm learning about the whole process. I'm going beyond just understanding the three branches of government. Fast forward today, that's not part of their curriculum. Today, we don't even talk about what is a governor, what's the governor's role and responsibilities.
A lot of people don't know.
A lot of folks do not know. So if you don't know something, it's hard to hold someone accountable. You just think, oh, it doesn't matter. It's the lesser of two evils, false equivalency. Well, I think I heard about this person. She might be okay. He might be all right. And not understanding the gravity of this power that they have when they get behind that curtain and click on that button.
I'm with it.
We gotta do the education piece. We gotta stop doing the eeny, meeny, miny, mo. See, because the other side, what they do is they'll come up to somebody and say, hey, Phil, listen, I'm gonna give you $10,000. And I'm also gonna pay your qualifying fee. I just want you to put your name on the ballot. You don't have to campaign. I just need you to add yourself. So now you go from 2 candidates on the Democratic side to 7.
Which is illegal. It happens.
Right? So that's why I tell folks there's a difference between qualifying and being qualified.
Hey.
Qualifying, you just got to be the age of 30, pay your $5,000, don't do no crime. You're good to go. You put your name on the ballot.
Good to go.
But are you qualified to be the chief executive officer of the state? Are you qualified to be the commander in chief?
Hey,
that's a different question.
Hey, I love it, Rep. You know what? We're almost at the 11 o'clock hour. I want to give you, of course, the sign off. I'll sign off the show for what it needs to be, but at least for the guests, we've had over collectively. First off, chat's been going. My chat is very conservative for the most part. Democrats too. Some agree with you, some didn't. But I think it's collectively, it's a chat, it's a community. But over 31,000 people have taken time over the past almost 2 hours to not only listen to us, hear your conversation, hear your platform as well. And we do have some trolls in the chat, trolls everywhere. So I'm a professional troll when I need to troll too. So it is what it is. But yeah. Over 130 people here right now. I wanted to first off say thank y'all for collectively staying on the stream, supporting the channel for what it is. Make sure you like and subscribe. We've grown from 400 subscribers in April to over 6,700 when I checked this morning. Matter of 6 months, great growth. I really do appreciate it. And again, this is the first elected official we've actually brought on the stream, on the show, for the community to at least connect with, because again, I don't want to wait till November next year to start bringing people on. Let's have a conversation now. And of course, bring Rep Jackson on as his campaign goes and grows. And listen, I've already learned I'm using Google Meets next time. I'm not even using other link. No, I'm going straight to the point. We're going to save each other's time and be more efficient. All right. So more than anything, let me let the good rep sign off. But want to thank my community for tapping in for tonight's stream.
Well, listen, brother, it's great to be on the Hip Hop Lobbyist because, again, as I stated on the onset, if you cannot be authentic and genuine in this space, right, where else can you go? See, a lot of folks who are running for governor in Georgia will not even come on this platform because they do not want to answer your tough questions. So, brother, keep asking tough questions, right? Because it's time out from playing politics. I would like to encourage you all to go to voteDerrickJackson.org. That's vote DERRICK Jackson.org. Take a look at my 8 pillars. Send me questions. Sign up. Tell others that you know that are in Georgia, because we're going to win this thing by 3 ways: my faith in God, my trust in you, and then your vote. Because we only need 2 million votes. 2 million votes to become governor. And we already have 2.7 million of those who look like me. So the power is already in our hand. It's all about how we exercise that power, how we get out, and you take 10, you take 10, you take 10. And also, you know, if you're much obliged, you know, send us $10, $20, $50 to help our campaign, because this campaign is a movement. We started off as a campaign on June 6th, but now it's a movement. It became electric, brother. So thank you for having me on the Hip Hop Lobbyist. Look forward to coming back again.
Of course.
And I would love for some of my colleagues who are running for governor, let's come on here. Let's have a debate. I've been asking for a debate. Nobody wants to debate me.
Yeah, which I understand. But you know, people don't like the debate, but it's one of those things. But if they're open to it, I'm open to it too.
Right? Yeah. You know, don't hide behind videos. Right?
Let's get it out there.
Don't hide behind videos.
Hey,
they counting on their name ID.
That's real. Well, again, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for tapping in the stream tonight. Again, if it's your first time here, make sure you like and subscribe. Please visit voteDerrickJackson.org.
.org.
Yeah, voteDerrickJackson.org. I did put it in the chat as well. Again, thank y'all for tapping in for the stream. I'm gonna end this one, but I will most likely go back in. I believe the U.S. Senate, they're debating the big beautiful bill, the continuing resolution to discuss the government. What I'm gonna do is take me a little eat break, water break, smoke break, and tap back in. But again, thank each and every one of y'all for tapping in for the stream.